Good evening, everyone. I'm Greg Gumbel. Welcome to the NCAA Men's Basketball Championship Selection Show. Just a short while ago, the selection committee finished up this year's tournament brackets. 32 teams received an automatic bid, 36 await an at-large. Joining me now to help us reveal the 68-team field, Clark Kellogg, Seth Davis, all kinds of storylines in play. What are the biggest questions?
Well, I think number one seed, how did the Michigan State win in the Big Ten Championship impact the 1 and 2 seed lines? Also, which bubble teams got in and did not? And then I'm really curious about Wofford and Buffalo. How will they be seeded in this year's tournament?
I only know one thing for certain right now. No one wants to hear me talk. Let them know what's going on.
All right, without further delay, let's begin the reveal. Here are the tournament brackets from the NCAA and its corporate champion, Capital One. To no one's surprise, the overall number one seed is Duke, with the Blue Devils playing in the East region. The Blue Devils, the 14th time they're a number one seed. Their first since 2015. 4 of their 5 titles came as a number one seed. So the number one seed overall, the Duke Blue Devils. Now, first and second round games in Columbia, South Carolina on Friday and Sunday. Duke will play the winner of the first 4 game in Dayton on Wednesday between North Carolina Central's Eagles out of the Mid-Eastern Athletic Conference and North Dakota State's Bison out of the Summit League. The winner of that game will be the 16 seed going against Duke. Moving on down, the number 8 seed in the East out of the Atlantic 10, the Rams of VCU. They won their first outright Atlantic 10 regular season championship. They will play University of Central Florida Knights out of the American Athletic Conference. They return to the NCAA tournament for the first time since 2005. Now, these games to be played first and second round in San Jose on Friday and Sunday. The 5th seed in the East region, the Bulldogs of Mississippi State. Bulldogs have 8 quad 1 wins. Those are wins against quality teams based on location. And the Bulldogs, a number 5 seed, seems to go well with their demeanor right now. You betcha. Who are they going to play? They're going up against the Liberty Flames out of the Atlantic Sun. They won a share of the regular season Atlantic Sun title with Lipscomb and then went on to defeat Lipscomb in the tournament finals. Continuing, the second team out of the Atlantic Coast Conference is Virginia Tech. The Hokies, the number 4 seed in the East, 3 straight NCAA tournament appearances for the first time in school history. They are happy as can be, and they're going to face the Billikens of St. Louis, the number 13 seed, and the second team out of the Atlantic 10. So it'll be Virginia Tech against St. Louis. First and second round matchups in Jacksonville, Florida on Thursday and Saturday. The number 6 seed in the East, the Terrapins of Maryland out of the Big Ten. Coach Mark Turgeon has the 4th youngest team in Division I. They will play the winner of the first 4 game in Dayton, Ohio on Tuesday between Belmont, the Bruins from the Ohio Valley, and from the American Athletic Conference, Temple.
And they should be happy. Everybody should be happy that Belmont got in. They deserve to get in. Kudos from the committee for reaching out to them. And also, how about Fran Dunphy last year at Temple making the NCAA tournament?
That's
a lot of happy
win-win.
Those teams.
Yes, sir.
All right, the number 3 seed in the East, the second team out of the SEC, the LSU Tigers. They still have to deal with off-court situations with their coach, Will Wade. Tony Benford filling in as the head coach, the interim head coach. They will meet the Yale Bulldogs from the Ivy League. They won a share of the regular season title with Harvard, then went on to beat the Crimson in the Ivy League tournament championship game. Now, first and second round action in Des Moines on Thursday and Saturday will feature these teams. The number 7 seed, Louisville, the 3rd team out of the Atlantic Coast. Boy, Jordan Wara led the Cardinals in scoring and rebounding. He'll be on display, and they will go up against the second team out of the Big Ten Conference, the Golden Gophers of Minnesota. Coach Richard Pitino saw his team upset 2nd seed Purdue in the Big Ten tournament before losing to Michigan in the tournament semifinals. And the last teams in the East, the 3rd team out of the Big Ten, Michigan State Spartans. And what a gutsy performance they put on in the Big Ten championship.
It sure was, and maybe a little bit of a surprise to some people that they are not the #1 seed, so they end up on the 2 line, which means if you're North Carolina, Tennessee, or Gonzaga, you're feeling a little bit better about your chances. Not all of them will be 1 seeds, but Michigan State obviously will not be.
And nobody's playing better than the Spartans. All they've gone through, the way they've performed to win a conference regular season championship and conference tournament championship, outstanding.
All right, who do the Spartans take on? Out of the Missouri Valley Conference, the number 15 seed Bradley Braves. They beat Northern Iowa to win their first Missouri Valley Conference tournament title in 31 years. They come in with a 9-9 conference record, 20-14 overall. They will meet Michigan State. So take a look at that bracket and tell me what you see.
Well, I see a team well, you take a look at Duke, obviously, but VCU, the 8-9 games are always intriguing. But this Liberty team, I've watched the Liberty Flames for all season long. They shoot the 3, they're balanced, they're aggressive. That will be a challenging matchup for Mississippi State.
Why waste time? Liberty beats Mississippi State. That's my first upset pick. How about a potential Duke-Virginia Tech Sweet 16 matchup? That would be an ACC rematch from the regular season. Remember, Virginia Tech beat Duke when they didn't have Zion, and Virginia Tech's going to be at full strength with their point guard, Justin Robinson. And then I think, hopefully, we are destined for a Duke-Michigan State regional final. That would be a terrific treat. Watch out for y'all. I know you love those.
Oh, I really
Bulldogs.
like the Bulldogs.
Dangerous 14 seed. What do you think?
Outstanding scoring team, average 80 points a game. 5 guys average double digits. They've got size, and then Miaoni, they've got one of the outstanding scorers and players in college basketball. That'll be a tough test for LSU.
I also think Belmont gets Temple and Maryland.
All right, guys, you can play the official bracket game of NCAA March Madness. The Capital One NCAA March Madness Bracket Challenge is almost ready for your picks. Get your bracket started at ncaa.com or in the March Madness Live app. Dozens of teams across the country waiting anxiously to see where they'll go, who they're going to be playing, including the defending national champions Villanova. And for some, it can even make it into the field of 68. Order of the field is set. When the selection show continues, we will reveal the South region. Welcome back to the NCAA Men's Basketball Championship Selection Show. Let's now focus our attention on the upper right quadrant. Continue to reveal the tournament brackets from the NCAA and its corporate champion, Coca-Cola. The second overall #1 seed is Virginia. The Cavaliers are going to the South region. It's the 7th time they have been a #1 seed. We know what happened to them last year. They'll try not to repeat.
Anticipating a much longer stay in this year's tournament for the Cavaliers.
All right, so the #1 seed in the South is Virginia. These first and second round games will take place in Columbia, South Carolina on Friday and Sunday. The Cavaliers are the 4th team out of the Atlantic Coast Conference, and they will meet 16th seed Gardner-Webb, the running Bulldogs out of the Big South, who beat Radford in the Big South Tournament Final. I think they're up for the game.
They are up for the game. They've got a terrific player in David Effiani. He's outstanding. A freshman, Jose Perez. This team worked their way through road games in the conference tournament to win the opportunity to be in the field, and they are tough-minded and fun to watch.
Congrats to the running Bulldogs of Gardner-Webb. All right, the 8-9 game in the South. The 3rd seed out of the Southeastern is the Rebels of Ole Miss. Coach Kermit Davis, in his first year at Ole Miss, named SEC Coach of the Year. They will meet, out of the Big 12, the Oklahoma Sooners, the #9 seed. 6 NCAA tournament appearances in the last 7 seasons.
Probably on the friendly side of the bubble, so not a surprise. But one of those power conference teams that was under 500 in its league, we'll see when we find out the second first 4 pairing, how they divvied up between the power conferences and the mid-majors.
All right, these are first and second round games in San Jose on Friday night and Sunday. The 4th team out of the Big Ten, the Badgers of Wisconsin. Ethan Happ, 16th player in Big Ten history to be a 3-time first-team All-Big Ten selection, helps lead the way for the Badgers. They will meet the Oregon Ducks, the #12 seed, the first team in our brackets here tonight out of the Pac-12. Oregon returns 4 games in 4 days to capture the Pac-12 tournament championship.
And very impressive in that championship win over Washington.
All right, moving on down. The second team out of the Big 12, Kansas State, the Wildcats, who won a share of the Big 12 regular season title. 25-8 on the season and 14-4 in the Big 12.
Not sure if Dean Wade's going to be able to go. You see him right there, bottom right, with that boot on his foot. Be interesting to see if he has a chance. He actually missed the tournament, part of the tournament last year as well.
They will play the number 13 seed out of the Big West, UC Irvine's Anteaters. They win the Big West regular season title and tournament title, and Clark Kellogg likes them a lot.
I really do. I like the way this team defends and rebounds. They play an aggressive style, but they're efficient at the offensive end. The Anteaters are positioned to do some damage this season.
All right, we move on down the South Region bracket. These are first and second round games to be played in Hartford on Thursday and Saturday. First team out of the Big East on our board, the number 6 seed Villanova Wildcats. Coach Jay Wright in his 16th NCAA tournament, 3 straight Big East tournament titles. They edged out Seton Hall, won the Big East regular season title as well. So the Villanova Wildcats all set to make an appearance in Hartford beginning on Thursday. They will go up against the 11th seed St. Mary's Gales out of the West Coast Conference, who upset the nation's number 1 team, Gonzaga, to win the West Coast Conference Tournament Championship. And the Gales don't look like they're finished quite yet.
So if you're looking for bubble teams, they usually go into the 11 and the 12 seeds, but we've got 2 conference champions there in St. Mary's and Oregon. So it doesn't look like this is a bubble mystery revealed in this region.
All right, the number 3 seed and the 5th team out of the Big Ten, the Purdue Boilermakers, who won a share of the Big Ten regular season title. They come into the NCAA tournament having won 14 of their last 17 games.
Outstanding job this season by Matt Painter and his staff.
They will take on the number 14 seed Monarchs of Old Dominion out of Conference USA regular season and tournament champions. Now to first and second round games in Columbus, Ohio on Friday and on Sunday. Our 3rd team out of the American Athletic Conference, the Bearcats of Cincinnati. They won the American Athletic Conference tournament title, beating top seed Houston.
I can't believe Cincinnati is a 7 seed. That is very low, especially considering their win today.
All right, they will take on the Iowa Hawkeyes, another team out of the Big Ten. The Hawkeyes 22-11 on the year, 10-10 in a very tough Big Ten conference.
Going back to that Cincinnati comment, I don't think they'll mind heading to Columbus, though.
Pretty good. You'll make them feel welcome, I'm sure.
Now, the number 2 seed in the South, the Tennessee Volunteers out of the SEC, our 4th team out of the SEC. Coach Rick Barnes did a heck of a job this year and fell a little bit short in the SEC title game.
Yeah, listen, I think they still deserve to be a 1 seed. Their losses compared to the other 1 seed candidates were not nearly as bad. They beat Gonzaga and Kentucky twice, but they're going to be a very tough out, and that certainly clarifies the number 1 seed picture for those following closely.
And who are they going to face? The 15th seed in the South out of the Patriot League, the Raiders of Colgate, who won the Patriot League tournament title.
Oh, look at that excitement. 11 straight wins for the Raiders. They've got a dynamic point guard in Jordan Burns, and also Rapolis Ivanauskas, a big-time, versatile wing player for them. This is a team that's got great momentum going into the tournament.
All right, so we go back to the top and we do our review. Villanova, you think they come into this tournament with a bit of a purpose?
Tell you what a job Jay Wright did. When you talk about what they lost from a year ago, the leadership of Pascal and Booth, really a huge part of the development of their young players to win both regular season and conference championships. Again, remarkable work, outstanding effort by the Wildcats.
Historically, you look for the 12 seeds and the 13s to pull first-round upsets, and I think that's what happens here. I think Oregon beat Wisconsin, and UC Irvine, you talked about Dean Wade being hurt for Kansas State, so they're a little bit in a weak spot there. So I like those 2 teams.
Well, 12s are 16-24 in the last 10 years in this tournament.
All right, let's slide on to the second half of the South Region bracket. We talked about Villanova and Purdue with a little something to prove.
Yeah, definitely. This Old Dominion team has won a number of close games. They've got a dynamic duo, and Ahmad Caver and also B.J. Stith. But I like what Purdue is capable of doing. Good size up front, and Carson Edwards is dynamic.
A couple of geographic quirks. If it's Villanova and Purdue, Purdue is the higher-seeded team, but the game is in Hartford. A little bit of a home court advantage. And you talked about Cincinnati and Columbus. If they get Tennessee in the second round, Cincinnati's already hard enough to beat without all those Bearcat fans flooding your hometown. So that's an interesting wrinkle in the geography.
All right, guys, we have several teams still on edge awaiting their fate, including the Mountain West champions Utah State, along with Wofford and Gonzaga, Murray State, as well as the Mid-American Conference champs, Buffalo and Marquette. The field is almost set. That means it's time for brackets. Play with friends and compete for a trip to next year's Final Four. Download the CBS Sports app to start playing now. Look at a few teams happy to be in the big dance. Coming up, we'll reveal the Midwest region when the selection show continues live here on CBS. Welcome back to Studio 43 here in New York City. We're halfway through our unveiling of the 68-team field. For the other half, we now move to the lower right quadrant and continue our reveal of the tournament brackets from the NCAA and its corporate champion, AT&T. The third overall #1 seed is North Carolina. The Tar Heels are going to the Midwest region, and for the 17th time, it's the most all-time that any school has been a #1 seed. And by the way, all three of Roy Williams' titles came as a #1 seed. And the Tar Heels have shown themselves to be a worthy opponent every time they take the floor this year. These are first and second round games in Columbus, Ohio on Friday and on Sunday. North Carolina's Heels, the #1 seed, they'll take on the 16th seed Iona Gales out of the Metro Atlantic Athletic Conference. They won the MAC Tournament Championship. The first team out of the Mountain West is our #8 seed, Utah State's Aggies, who won the Mountain West Tournament title. Sam Merrill, the Mountain West Player of the Year. We saw, yes, they're potent.
Oh, they are really potent. They can score it. They're excellent defensively and on the glass, and they bring it for 40 minutes every time. I tell you, Sam Merrill's one of the outstanding all-around guards in the country. He scores it, he passes it, and he's an underrated defender as well.
They're an 8 seed. Who's the 9 seed they're going to take on? Out of the Pac-12, the Washington Huskies. 26-8 on the year. They won the Pac-12 regular season title, moved on to the Pac-12 tournament finals before losing to Oregon. But the Huskies 15-3 in the Pac-12 on the year. Now, first and second round games to take place in Salt Lake City on Thursday and on Saturday. The 5th team out of the SEC, the Auburn Tigers. Bruce Pearl's squad rose up and won the SEC Tournament Championship, first time since 1985.
Impressive last couple of weeks run for the Auburn Tigers. Very impressive what they did today. Start to finish, dominated that game.
Okay, from the Western Athletic Conference, they're going to meet the #12 seed, the Aggies from New Mexico State, who ran away with the WAC regular season title and overwhelmed Grand Canyon in the WAC Tournament Championship game. 30-4 on the year for New Mexico State. The third team out of the Big 12 is the 4th seed, and that's the Kansas Jayhawks. Coach Bill Self, 21 straight NCAA tournament appearances.
Kansas a 4 seed, but in the Midwest, which means if they get out of the first weekend, they're playing in Kansas City as a home game. Interesting decision. That's going to be a point of conversation if they're around that long, and I'm not sure they will be.
All right, they'll play the #13 seed, the Huskies out of Northeastern, the Colonial Athletic Conference. The Huskies knocked off top seed Hofstra in the tournament finals.
These Huskies have some bite now. This is a team that shoots it well, defends at a high level. Kansas will have everything they want in trying to beat that squad.
All right, let's go to the bottom half of the bracket. These are first and second round games to take place in Tulsa on Friday and on Sunday. 4th team out of the Big 12, Iowa State's Cyclones, the #6 seed. They won their second Big 10 tournament or Big 12 tournament title in 3 years. They beat Kansas, and they will meet the #11 seed, Ohio State's Buckeyes, the 7th team out of the Big 10. Coach Chris Holtmann has led the Buckeyes to the NCAA tournament in his first 2 years.
It's a bubble team, man. Clark, you want to take this one?
Thrilled to see the Buckeyes there as a double-digit seed. They'll have their hands full with this high-octane Iowa State team. As a matter of fact, I think Iowa State team is a dark horse to break up a bracket because of how they can score and what they showed defensively here in winning the Big 12 championship.
Okay, at the #3 seed, we have our 4th team out of the American Athletic, and it's the Houston Cougars. Coach Kelvin Sampson leading the Cougars to a school record 31 wins, or 29 in the regular season, 31-3 overall. They won their first conference regular season title since 1992. They'll meet #14 seed Georgia State, the Panthers, out of the Sun Belt. Well, we saw the kind of excitement they can bring to a ball game.
Yeah, they shoot the three extreme, 40% from the three, and they've got 5 guys that shoot over 40% from three-point range.
All right, let's round out this Midwest bracket. First and second round games in Jacksonville on Thursday and Saturday. Wofford's Terriers out of the Southern Conference come into the tournament on a 20-game win streak after winning the Southern
That's a pretty good seed there. I thought they'd be in that neighborhood. How about you, Seth?
That's on the north end of the neighborhood, but
okay.
That's a pretty respectable neighborhood.
Yes, it is.
I'm glad the committee had that much respect for Wofford. They certainly earned it.
And you guys also feel they'll be great representatives.
Yeah, they will, no doubt. Outstanding team, and in Fletcher McGee have one of the most lethal three-point shooters, but he's not alone. There's a good team there, the Terriers.
All right, they're going to meet the #10 seed Pirates of Seton Hall. Bell, the second team out of the Big East. Top 25 wins over Kentucky. Beat Marquette twice, and Villanova. That's part of their resume.
And in Miles Powell, they've got a guy, little fella, who's dynamic, putting the ball in the basket.
And the last matchup in the Midwest region, the 6th SEC contender, the Kentucky Wildcats, the number 2 seed. For how many weeks did we have them pegged as a number 1 seed?
Right in the neighborhood. And again, we talked about it all month long, really. The top 8 pretty solidly distinguished, and it was just a matter of which line those 8 were going to fall on.
Tied for second during the SEC's regular season. They will meet the 15th seed Wildcats of Abilene Christian out of the Southland Conference. They beat New Orleans in the Southland Tournament Championship. Abilene Christian comes in with 27-6. So back to the top of the Midwest region, supposedly ruled by North Carolina. What do you think?
Well, I tell you, I'm looking ahead to a potential Utah State-North Carolina matchup in that second round. That would be a tantalizing 1-8 matchup. Utah State has size. They've got scoring. I think that would be a really intriguing matchup there.
I think a very dangerous team here is New Mexico State. I love teams that have won all year. They're 30-5, 15-1 Chris Janz's clubs. I think they actually will beat Kansas in the second round and make it to the Sweet 16. So we're not going to have that fun of the controversy.
Well,
bottom half of the bracket, you can't ignore Kentucky.
No, you certainly can't. You cannot ignore Kentucky, nor can you ignore Seton Hall.
Yeah, and Kentucky could play Seton Hall in the second round, but I actually like Wofford to beat Seton Hall in that game, and that'd be a great matchup for Wofford and Kentucky. Kentucky's playing great basketball. I think it's going to be a Kentucky-North Carolina rematch in the Elite Eight. Wouldn't that be?
We are running out of regions. A couple of teams still waiting to find out where they're going, including Prairie View A&M, who beat Texas Southern to claim the Southwestern Athletic Conference title, along with Gonzaga, Texas Tech, last year's national runners-up, Michigan. We'll let you know when we return and reveal the West Region live on the Selection Show after this. Welcome back, everyone. 3 brackets down, 1 to go. Several fan bases still waiting to see where and if their teams make it into the field of 68, so let's get to it. Here's the final region of the tournament brackets from the NCAA and its corporate champions as we reveal the West region. The 4th overall number 1 seed is Gonzaga, the Bulldogs, a number 1 seed for the 3rd time in their history, for the 2nd time in the last 3 years.
Interesting that on the overall seed line, it looks like North Carolina is ahead of Gonzaga, sliding down to the 4, even though Carolina lost in the semis of the ACC tournament. That surprises me a little bit.
The Bulldogs, who are there every single year and a tough out in the tournament at all times. All right, let's talk first and second round action in Salt Lake City in the West. These are Thursday and Saturday games. Gonzaga, the top seed, they will meet the winner of the first 4 game in Dayton on Tuesday between the Knights of Fairleigh Dickinson out of the Northeast. The Knights come back to the NCAA tournament by beating St. Francis in the NEC tournament finals. They will meet in Dayton the Panthers of Prairie View A&M out of the Southwestern Athletic Conference. Panthers going to their first NCAA tournament since 1998 after winning the SWAC tournament title.
That's a high-scoring, explosive group. Doesn't have a lot of size, but they've got a lot of firepower.
All right, the number 8 seed in the West, the Orange of Syracuse, 6th team out of the ACC. Coach Jim Boeheim, 34 NCAA tournament appearances. They will meet the 9th seed Baylor Bears, and the 5th team out of the Big 12. Baylor, 19-13 on the year. First and second round games in Hartford, Connecticut on Thursday and Saturday. Our 3rd Big East team is the Golden Eagles of Marquette. Big East regular season title, finished 1 game behind the Wildcats, and the Golden Eagles, as a number 5 seed in the West, are ready to go. Who do they meet? Well, they'll have a little bit of a task. The 2nd team out of the Ohio Valley, the Racers of Murray State, share the regular season Ohio Valley Conference title with Belmont and then beat them in the tournament finals. So Murray State at 27-4.
So we get John Moran against Marcus Howard, which is great. But the important thing here to know is, again, bubble teams go into the 11 or the 12 seed, which means we're still waiting on those last two teams in on the first 4. They'll be on the 11 seed when we slide this bracket.
All right, number 4 seed in the West, the 7th team out of the ACC, the Seminoles of Florida State. After a 1-4 start in conference play, boy, they just reeled off all kinds of victories.
I think that Gonzaga comes out of this region, but if somebody else, if there's a dark horse for me, it's the Florida State Seminoles. Deep, athletic. The only question is, can they make enough shots when they need to? But that's a team that you got to keep an eye on. Very dangerous.
Who are they playing? They're playing the Catamounts of Vermont out of the America East and the number 13 seed in the West region. 2 NCAA tournament appearances in the last 3 seasons for Vermont. Comes in at 27-6 on the year. Now, first and second round games in Tulsa on Friday and Sunday. From the Mid-American, Buffalo's Bulls, the number 6 seed. They won the Mid-American regular season and tournament championships.
The highest seed for a team from the MAC since the field expanded. No team had been seeded higher than 8 before. Awesome work and well done by the blue-collar Bulls from Buffalo.
All right, first 4 game in Dayton, Ohio, Wednesday. Who will they meet? It'll be a matchup between the Sun Devils of Arizona State, number 11 seed, and the 3rd Pac-12 team into the tournament.
Chris Mullen and Bobby Hurley, it was a long wait to get to this point in the show, but you are in the tournament. Those are the last 2 at-large teams in the tournament.
Chris Mullen took St. John's to 4 NCAA tournaments as a player, gets into their first tournament since 2015. The number 3 seed in the West, the Red Raiders of Texas Tech, and the 6th team out of the Big 12. First regular season title since 1996 when they played in the Southwest Conference. So Texas Tech on their way.
One of my favorite players in the country, Jared Culver, leads the Red Raiders.
And number 14 seed in the West out of the Horizon League, Northern Kentucky. The North beat top-seeded Wright State to win the Horizon League Tournament Championship. Now, first and second round games in Des Moines, Iowa on Thursday and Saturday. The number 7 seed, the Wolfpack of Nevada, won the Mountain West regular season title. They're the 2nd team out of the Mountain West, and they will take on the Florida Gators, the 10 seed in the West. Our 7th SEC team, the Gators, knock off top seed LSU in the SEC quarterfinals. And at the bottom of the list, the number 2 seed, the Michigan Wolverines, came up just short in the Big Ten championship game tonight. They're the 8th team out of the Big Ten Conference. They opened the season on a 17-game winning streak. They ended it strong as well. And they will face the Grizzlies of Montana out of the Big Sky. Montana won the Big Sky regular season and tournament championship and come into this tournament with a record of 26-8. So there is your field. And let's go back to the top and take a look and see who Gonzaga has to contend with down the road.
Well, Florida State is in that region, as you can see. And again, the Seminoles dangerous. This Vermont team has been outstanding for several years, and good to see them back in the tournament.
Yeah, interesting couple of the power conference teams who did not get in TCU, Texas, and NC State. So the committee did value some of these mid-major candidates. I think this is a pretty good path for Gonzaga. They lost to Florida State in last year's tournament, but that was the one where Killian Tilly got hurt. And then as far as the bottom half of this bracket, I think Buffalo is the team to watch. I just think Texas Tech is playing so well right now. Clark scoring the ball. I actually like Texas Tech to beat Michigan in the Sweet 16, go to the Elite 8, lose to Gonzaga.
Okay, I hear you. You've got it mapped out. That's what a bracketologist does.
All right, guys, the bracket's now complete. We turn our attention to the teams that barely made the field and the teams that barely missed the field. Belmont, Temple, Arizona State, St. John's. Pretty accurate from what we predicted earlier.
No question. I mean, you have probably 8 to 10 teams that you're looking at for probably 3 to 4 spots. And these teams were all in that conversation. And it becomes a matter of what the committee chooses when they go into the voting booth. And no issues at all here because, again, when you get as Seth likes to always say, if you played yourself into that position, then there's not really much room for you to whimper and complain.
And teams that were close but not making the tournament, UNC Greensboro, Alabama, TCU, and Indiana, Seth.
Yeah, and again, those teams all lost considerable number of games in their own power conferences. UNC Greensboro, the fact that it looks like, I don't know if they're the first team out, but they're even on this list, a great accomplishment for them. Just not enough quality wins. So I think the committee basically, kind of split the difference here. They got Belmont in, but they did not reach as deep into the power conference well as maybe some people were expecting. I think that's I'm sorry for those teams that didn't get in.
Sure, no doubt.
But I think that's a good strategy, a good place to land where they did.
Okay, you have no argument, Clark.
None at all, because again, there's a thin line. But when you're looking at the teams that were in that last 4 in, last 4 out conversation, I think the committee landed in the right spot.
All right, here's how the conferences broke down, the ones that earned multiple bids, and here's how it looks. 8 teams out of the Big Ten, 7 out of the ACC, 7 out of the SEC, and then the Big 12 is next with 6. That's pretty much the way you guys thought it would be.
I'm looking at my notes from earlier today, and I had it about that way in terms of the power 6, clearly, when you take a look at what transpired there.
Now, 7 non-Power 6 teams earned an at-large invitation, Seth.
Yeah, but I go back to that list of the teams that didn't get in when you talk about Oregon winning the Pac-12 and St. Mary's winning the West Coast Conference, and then VCU losing in the A-10. So those were 3 spots. That graphic that we showed up, 3 of those teams would have been in the field but for those results. That's why it's March Madness.